Evening and welcome to the found footage horror video classic that is my lockdown Christmas. In the profoundly mistaken belief that poetry will help, I am now going to do poems at you. Emmanuel. Sometimes the sky fights me. Sometimes the day is a dog full of loss. Sometimes the day is a desert of prolonged and hopeless music. How the heart has timid discipline enough to make you wretched, and I should gather in my wan rejoicings stone by stick, by feather, by stone. Sometimes I walk, and sometimes run. Caffeine's acrid circuit in the blood by shuttered shops and faces numb with bargain. I pipe a syrup grace through buds, a song to steer my pleading mood. Oh come, and souls descend and stride at will, this I'm told, so pull myself together. Sometimes the day is more than I can stand, devise my thriving failure as silvery charm against fame. In the arcade, how an old woman's mouth is twisted in its figuring, how a young boy cups the flickering gift of a stranger's light to his chin, how the blackened wick of an addict's tongue taps against her teeth as she hustles and blags with a tawny daring, how pain applies and God is here in any given gleam. A child's dilated eye delights in chocolate money. The Sally Ann faces chalky with reproach, and each horse sins suspect within an inch of a life. Carols flattened to a German prosit. If I could disappear, braid all of my mistakes to pattern, turn this penitent attention to the work of love. But there is a thick and extinguishing sky devours its heavens whole. Sometimes the day is fixed to the murderous hints of hard men consoled and then oppressed in turn, again reeling from that old trouble, that old coarse damage turned our poet to grotesques, to inhabit a cavernous virtue and rattle around alone the unquiet attics of the mind an abruptly blackened eye, the mind a soiled mattress, bolt of calico raised, hand bitten to 17 stitches in fingerless gloves, and a song, fatigued and luminous. Who mourns in lonely exile here until crack the ugly glandular damp of winter right apart and all the skeleton hyperboles of power. Sometimes the day is a gallows against gravity, to hang and not to die, and buskers crooning yokel passions making mock until, to rise up like a boxing hare, and the lyric steals itself for meaning once again. On gratitude for Jack Farnell, Thanksgiving 2020. We do not keep this festival. Instead, the compulsive pull of someone else's pain, or how the hair attempts to lay its leaping ghosts and dogs in the slow burn of their silhouettes. A sharper calm in empty streets, we walk through an avoidant light in freezing fog, succumb to the hopeless gravitational chatter of emergencies. On the news, there are small gods, maverick and immovable, gods of tantrum and frontier disdain, swollen gods of mute prospect. Living is by no means unavoidable, and listen. Those who are here have survived, and bless our senseless durational luck. Those who are not have not, and Christ, all those Senate faces shed an unending grammar of tears, mouthing their mortalities to carcass meal a body worth its weight in votes. We do not keep this festival. Instead, the sorrowing operations of flesh, love, our balm and tender bane, guilt and other golden niceties, Bitcoin, plenary, Krugerrands, apartheid's obols, bent doubloons and brother, when mercy's purse is empty, To live in clothes, stale talk sublime to idiocy, hours we cannot fumble through for nothing, the hand in its moot cleaving always, ink in its swift and blameless ebbing, to feel part of yourself rub off on the world, faint as tailor's chalk, a taste they talk from mouths in naming, oh, and strip the mascot skin off me. Trees like raised shillelaghs, bold as dying young. In the mirror, we have traced our waking edges like a pair of delicate skeptics blandly sickened by the work of going upright in the world. We do not keep this festival, and yet how mouths grow out their carnivore vowels in the saying, and flags in their failed and spreading dream of us. We are still here, to walk through the proudly competing nauseas of all their raptured whiteness, walk where they spit their small island adjectives or essay a possible space gone vague. They are weavers of rope, whatever, aspirant hangmen. We are not them, there is much to do in the hot, wavering space of lament. In the phantom towns of slight return, wanton with amnesty in the spent clip, the predicament of beads in the dandelion loins of hope in zoo, all over. And begin with this, the shimmering acid onslaught of having loved and having love, and they have not, in the smithy of their obliviousness, boiled it out of you. Bless days of perturbation and reprieve. Bless the mere infinities of boys become their own craving zodiac, rapid cycling manic states. Bless them too. Bless the accents we can't shake, how a vertigo clings to flatteries practiced iams no matter what we say. Bless the girls in their cameos of fire and thirst. Bless the dogs and the therapist, the sponsor's voice like sweetened tea. Bless the wards, bless the pigs, by which I mean, may something fuck them subtle, may their febrile petals part and let light in just once. Bless all those bastards, agents of a partisan hygiene here to wipe us out. For we do not keep this festival. Instead, hawking, starved of touch and all the wood song's spaces in between, hedgerow warblers, and throwing my sickle cautions to the floor to speak of love. Have I not sounded the bell of this before? Then let me now, as the eye accelerates through text and text and text and cannot ken the limits of its singing, to have you in my life, a flat silver aura burning, describing a kind of halo near the heart, like how it lifts your head, like how it keeps you going, how I wish I could do more. Keep instead this being in the teeth of, stripping the bed sheets, dusk comes without signal. We will scroll our survival over every inch of their dominion. Find a fire, molten and coaxed. Use it always for those who cannot. Still shit? Just checking. So everything's terrible, but this is my t-shirt, which is not terrible, so there's that. And also this poem, which so it sets her off. Days like this, the copper burden of her blood, the mouth in its stretching frenzy, the heart in its heap of salt, this hanging day, and who will weave the worst of life to singing drink, has an ushering mood, an old fool, his wearisome amber embellishments end over end. Drinking is confession's verm, winding through the venal gloaming, curling in a conchal bowl on days like this. Men of stricken habits spit into the fire, and eyes a sterile cartoon blue. There is a kind of smirking pain that rots the teeth, thumb pricking pride, a tenor voice that works all arrogance to ballad. Home had melting wakeful girls to conjure with, carbolic soup and Catholic guilt, and oh, this hoodlum karma's mended in a scented gingham lap. They set her off, oh, men like that. Pleuritic opportunists spill their wet wares, wheezing errors, or lean into a murky liquid reckoning. Lilies of the valley, lilies of the field, a strident trembling, dead. Old men like that, and boys born old, folding their faces to a frowning purpose, gallows cavaliers passing their tongue along the gilded wet of English intent upon villainy. And she watches them. She watches the big man suffered like a Sunday, set to become a lucrative ghost, her woman's eyes feral with assessment and all the foxy little Herods monetizing ruin. It sets her off, the theremin howl of cats, fucking, blinking of a strip light in the flats across the way. How an accent carries, through consolation to crescendo, slope to mutton lecheries, a sallow sickbed brooding, wincing lust. Who told her we were giants once, that a hand could encompass the world of glass for the arrant smashing? The busker pulls a tune like teeth, lisps around an abscess, growls for a pair of brown eyes. For a pair of brown eyes. This one's a wee bit more cheerful. Thank you, One Hand Clapping Magazine, for publishing this in their Christmas issue, which was a corker. So I finally got to be in a magazine with Paul Muldoon, which was literally the most exciting thing that's happened this year, up to and including graduation, I think, so, which was actually another kind of tedious shit thing, more about which and on. But, you know, anyway, this poem. You do this poem. Just do the poem! 9 ladies dancing. Without music, without shoes, hungry as sharpened wolves, their love a porous wealth that flows through the skin in drunken waves. Their mouths are careful stains this night, apt to taste of every brazen trend, the lemon and the lime, whispers, twists and hints, 9 ladies dancing. In laddered tights, in concave fortunes, perfume counter pockets turned by the light of their silvery screens. To the gliding, wilful melodies of text alerts and ringtone minuets, women flaking gold leaf like cathedrals' ceilings, their steps explode in wayward sweet florets spinning. 9 ladies dancing, who dream in bitter symmetries, bodies bought to tender ruin over again and then. 9 ladies stirred, some misty rhythm, a pulse the wrist could not contain, nor the night, nor the inner myrrh of drudgery. 9 ladies dancing round and round, days they spend shattered and assailed, but by a sudden quirk of drink become this marvellous spinning once. 9 ladies dancing, not for you, on the head of a pin, beneath last year's lights. Music for a pale season. To begin in my most blushing tongue, the winter night, its suffering velvet diction. An era of swift ills where each sweet thing is vanishingly ours, listen. This little world of veils and aprons, pocketful, a purse, a dried herb charm. To begin this Borgia moon again, an ample cynic's mouth, and we, our cautionary adrift, dissolute, suppressed, that moon in turn our decay toward that moon and wait. Retire, ye devils, awful year, ye tinkling pearly misfires too, ye sparkling distresses shrink. Send us men to drink pianos into standstill, no more of you. Long fingers wring this linen face of all its useless tears. Strip a lesion from a lobe, that moon. That wan succumbing crescent smile, do not be fooled. She'll bring you grunting to concussion, sway you like a cow commencing to run dry. Spinning, sparrow in a centrifuge, your eyes are rhymed with storm, awful year. Our raw fears spoofed to chicken soup, stock and staple, fat and bone to begin. The melody, the malady, a fool and her sonatas are soon parted, flocks and flocks, flotsam. Wolves, jackals, herons, hounds, the tundra's punks, hyena, sweating her turkey strut through sutra, any livid stitch in speech, in time, in longing. Rid yourself of fanfare and of aria, flirts of a fraudulent wound, Our terrible years need haggard-handed men to play them out, a claw across their syrup-weeping wake, a rake's progress, an old silk stark mistaking no lamb to bleat its lineage, nor fold us in the petals of redress, we'll not come clean. From first to fullest noose, through thickets of forsaking, snakes that sell their heirloom eyes for risk of being real. That moon, that mouth, the goose that lays the golden vow, no, a tongue to meet your scissoring halfway, the sun declines your metaphors, soft regimes of loaves and stifling. We will have light and thunder, leave enchantment's penny orgy, its preening gimmicks, stars, to begin again the day, do better, with unkempt cuckoo vividness, dance and rage and burn. That's not generic mess, it's unkempt cuckoo vividness from now on. Outlaw, outlaw, this is a long one. Who has time for the dead? And their drab repose says, hark anymore, has reticence, discretion, who gently captains their fall from grace, not I. To be a tasteful slut in this season of sweet nipple, my highest calling. Do the outlaw poem, do the stately, charmless work of formal negation, why the shit not? To be the pouting mouthpiece of a fertile dread, complicity in bitter graft who sings such things these days in the self-cannibalizing jargons of loneliness, in the tactile scheming of a smear retardant scream, the politic devising of a hand, my pestle thumb to grind this world to icy pleasures who has time. In the face of my enemy, vaguely blissed, virile and cynical. How I should stir these dishpan fists from their stasis, condition the wolf in me to come to heel, to heed a leash of faint praise, superficial esteems. Go on, do the outlaw poem become a rebel in the flesh? Friday. The sellotape tears like a cat being unzipped, mood, stuttering menace, boxes everywhere. Sex is a languid tyrant and I try not to think of her or all the ways I drink myself agog. Whiskey, bootleg moonshine, purest mountain hooch, pachin enough to turn all aria to circus could soak this up. A true crime paperback dropped in the bath. But mouths recoil from their compulsive garlic loveliness to routine chewing. I pack the dust of my possessions in a separate cardboard crate. To speak of the road now, when distance lacks depth, as if these tiny towns were traced directly onto the eyeball, what can it mean? Yes, I could do you the road. I could do you a fork in the road with the devil mooching in moonlight. I could do you the burial of dogs in mean weather. To the right the ferry, to the left the tightly splendid thrusting of my grief. I could do you the boys shrinking inside of a January wind, a bone retrained to grow at furtive tangents, nights of dosses, kips and squats, nights of pills and bridges, long nights dosed to coma. I could do you a gridlocked mind in splinters, wasting from the same frivolous disease as all the rest, a landlord as a lead balloon, a powdered cheek pitted with kisses and Sunday, arriving on our lips like a deathbed confession, girls whose tortured succulence they're pleased to make a fetish of. Nights of brackish fury, adulterated sky redeemed by little lights, cathedral in the pensive compromise of evening angels like desolate steeplejacks describing their descent, the bleak indecision of suicides, how we expropriated lead and windows too, a saint's magenta robe buoyant as a lick of flame. To be touched by hands with that clammy gym mat smell, to a music that holds our trembling in common. Who has time now? for the kinfolk worshipful and hungry for Christ, in the wingspan of his wrath for potato eaters, pickers out of fish bones, boys, as the dubbed skin falls from them, expendable and prostrate, not I, in tulle and teal, in kitten heels, in the slick hey presto of my waking dream. All I want, that I should be adored moodily with footnotes smooth as a scream. Do the outlaw poem, do the polishing penknives in paradise rejoice with a twist of lemon, do the two-bit hustle and why the shit not. This poem buries its burning face in the cool side of the pillow. I am keeping this poem where I keep my knife. Some dumb record, the singer oozing her elopement, and the dog next door has barked for 2 hours straight, throwing itself against the front door. Oh, to be a tender axe whisperer, to take their fucking heads off one by one and let that dog loose in another life. I am kicking the door in, speaking my seizure through froth and flailing. There is such a rage in me. I have pushed it down into the balls of my feet until it became the coals I walk on, the spine of an old violence flexes yet liturgical, aimless days you swing for, swing from, every unpaid tab, every car park fight, each arrest and each resistance, burnt beers for the starry impulse, whose death a kind of sarcasm. Silence now. Gnawing the old self like a pious rat. In the time of riot we turned ourselves on the lathe of a losing heart and dressed in the clumsy flora of a funeral swishing, climbed warehouse stairs to madness. There was a schism in the wrist, the nullity of home. There was no cult of us, and there will be none, but a mere and fitful skimming, the anguished flashback, dissolving, and ablaze, and ablaze, and ablaze. Final poem now, with my very strong Joy Division theme. Joy Division and Easter lilies. Also Dora Maar, which is just super, super Christmassy. It's the most Christmassy things I could think of. And it's a poem for my brother. It's a poem for Kidder. It's called Forevermas. A riot then on fire. My shoulder was a shield and always is. For you. Long day of European panic. The mob in its decadent wending will drum this curried twilight through to smoke. I've doleful, dated punsies, each wilful theft, each worker's state. Do not despise me, I am no longer young. By 10 o'clock, all tension gone out of our melody, we wonder, torment embers with a stick and see they yield like something live. Persuasions, stints, this fire makes misty grievance grow, how everything is talk and murmuring stunt these boys. A lunar ego, their succour and their cunning both, not you. Mildewed manifestos underlined with careful violence. Your eye, a serious loop, green-blue eye turned toward the earth, prostrate in appraisal. Long day. Love you like a surfeit of treason always, and beyond all this, a wider way to risk myself, my skin. I would do anything. Uphold corruption's cause for you. Turn journo or informer. Would bet the devil my head. Anything, it scares me. This love the way low-hanging fruit frustrates. It is the realest thing, the reeling thing, the winding music. Deluge, slogan, my melancholy thrift. Mouths swagger through their paternoster internationale, a nation once again. Are you best this music? Dancing along horse guards, turning once with a sombre whim to bow to the police, which offended them more than all the bricks in Christendom. Merry Shipmas, everybody.